votes. I don't really care about a win-loss thing, by the way. Most of the, when we went into this debate on Thursday, we had a discussion ahead of time. It's not so much about winning and losing. It's about presenting your case.
And did you have a vote at the end?
No, there was no vote at the end.
Okay.
Because it wasn't arranged. I didn't set any of that up, but I don't care either way. But if you want to have a vote at the end and stroke your ego out of it, that's fine. And none of it makes any difference. None of it makes one bit of difference to whether or not you're actually right. Now, if you'd like, it's 5:01. If you'd like to make a quick argument for the existence of God, a single point that we could maybe address on the show, apart from us just sitting here jousting back and forth about nothing, that'd be great. Otherwise, I'm going to go to another caller.
Sure. No, we can go through. We can run through some stuff real quick on the existence of God. I will just go ahead and give you some real quick points that I think demonstrate his existence, and you can tell me what you think about it.
Can you narrow it down to like one or two?
I'm going to narrow it down to 7 premises that'll prove the point. They're very quick. They're like brainless. I mean, they're so simple. I believe you'll agree with every one of them.
Sure. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay.
We'll
start with premise number 1. And premise number 1 is simply that something cannot come from nothing. I trust you accept that.
No, I don't.
Okay. So you're going to now let's go ahead and do this, Matt. If you're going to go ahead and you're going to reject it, I'm more than happy to have you reject it. But in order to do that, since you're so scientific and so reasonable, you're going to base everything you believe upon evidence. What I want you to do is, if I said to you, Matt, fire does not burn paper, you're going to go ahead and you're going to say, well, you know what, we got a billion examples where fire burns paper. Mm-hmm. Now, you just said that something can come from nothing. I want you to go ahead and give me the scientific examples where something came from nothing. And I know you're not going to go to the Lawrence Krauss example, because you and I both know that when Lawrence Krauss talks about something coming from nothing, that he's talking about empty space with low level of energy. I did not say empty space and low level of energy. I said nothing. So if you're going to counter the point, simply go ahead and give me the reason and the scientific evidence where you have nothing and something has come from nothing. Can you give me one example where that happened?
Are you done now?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you said something cannot come from nothing, and you thought I would agree with you. And I'm not asserting that something can come from nothing. My position was that I do not necessarily accept that something cannot come from nothing. And I was, in fact, I was in. You better let me finish. You better let me finish. You better let me finish, or I'm going to hang up on you. Do you not understand the difference between I do not accept X and I think X is false? Do you not understand the difference?
Yes, I do.
Okay, what I said was I do not accept necessarily that something cannot come from nothing. I did not assert that something can come from nothing. I was going to go to the Lawrence Krauss example specifically so that we could actually have a discussion about what you mean by nothing, because what physicists mean by nothing is different from what other people mean by nothing. And I needed to do that for clarity.
Okay, so what I mean by nothing is non-existence.
Sure, and I still don't accept that is a truism. I accept that inductive reasoning would lead us to believe that that's most probably true, but we cannot assert absolutely that it is impossible for something to come from nothing, because there is no way to examine and test that.
Okay,
so are you agreeing with that?
Okay, no, I don't. What I think is interesting,
why don't you agree with it?
I'm willing to go ahead and agree with it, but as long as you're willing to agree that the evidence that we have indicates we have no positive evidence that shows that something comes from nothing.
Do we have an example of nothing?
But we don't have, as Tracy pointed out, we don't have an example of nothing from which to draw.
As long as you would agree with that. And not only that, but keep this in mind, Matt. If we assume that something can come from nothing, then all science goes out the window anyways.
We're not assuming that.
Science is entirely based upon the law of cause and effect.
We're not assuming that. We're not assuming. How many times do I have to explain this? We're not assuming that something can come from nothing. I'm saying that the simple assertion that it is impossible for something to come from nothing is a position that you have not actually justified. And if you just appeal to all of the evidence that we have available, you are making a huge argument from ignorance right off the beginning.
Because we don't have nothing available to examine.
Correct?
Okay.
Correct?
No, I don't think that is correct.
Well,
I think it's very possible for if you were going to go ahead and make the claim. It's sort of like when I say there's a God.
How do you prove?
There's a God?
How do you prove that something can't come from nothing?
Now, do you notice what you just did?
Yes,
You
I put the
just
burden
asked
of proof
same
on your
question
damn
that
claim.
When a Christian calls in and says that there's God, you say, how can you go ahead and prove that God doesn't? When they call in and say, or you ask the question, how can you prove that God doesn't exist? It's not up to
Correct.
you to argue that God doesn't exist.
Correct.
I believe it's up to the Christian to prove God exists.
Correct.
So
And
in this case, it's not up.
Correct. And for the person who's asserting that something can't come from nothing, it is their responsibility to prove their case. Can you do that?
There you go. So can we accept premise 1 and I'll move to premise 2?
No. Can you demonstrate premise 1?
Premise 1 is demonstrated by the fact that the only example of anything that we have is that every effect has a cause. For something to come into existence, it can...
First of all, you changed all the language in there, but premise number 1 is something that needs to actually be demonstrated, and my question to you was actually, can you demonstrate it? And so far, the only thing you've offered is that, well, all the evidence that we have seems to point that direction, and we don't have any evidence that contradicts it. Well, that's really cool, and it's a good way to say that it's probably true that something can't come from nothing, but it is not an absolute.
What we have demonstrated...
Let's do this. You know what, man? I'm happy to say it's probably true, because I think that the evidence sides with that.
Sure.
So how about if we just say, you know what, it's probably true, and if you can figure out a way to contradict it, then we'll accept it.
I have
No.
Well, I have something I just want to assert. What you're really asserting, and the thing that is demonstrable, is something can come from something. We don't have a nothing to see whether or not anything can come from it. So a claim that regards nothing is a useless claim. All what you're saying is we have a lot of examples of something coming from something. In fact, every example we have is something coming from something else. And I understand that. But to say that something can't come from nothing, you have to have a nothing. And I've never seen that, so I don't know what that is.
And even though we might agree that it's probable as a matter of inductive reasoning, we don't just assume that it's true and continue on, because that is logic based on probability, and I'm talking about syllogistic logic.
Okay, so if we take Kant said, from nothing, nothing comes.
I don't care what Kant says any more than I cared what you said or what Captain Kirk says. As I said before, the arguments stand and fall on their own merits, not in the merits of the individual. So there's no point citing Kant because I think Kant was wrong there.
Yeah, really. Okay, again, what I want you to notice is when you say that you think he's wrong, I just want you to know you're putting yourself in the camp of those who are making claims, and you have absolutely, by your own testimony, you have no evidence whatsoever to make that claim, Matt.
No, it isn't a claim. Why is this so difficult for you? When you quoted Kant to say nothing from nothing, nothing comes, I don't agree with him. I don't necessarily think that he could sufficiently make that case, just as I don't think you can make the case that something comes from nothing. That's it.
I don't try to make. I think you misspoke. You said you don't think I can make the case that something comes from nothing. I don't think that.
Sorry, something doesn't come from nothing.
You do agree that as far as something coming from something, that's the only thing that makes sense.
Only because we don't have nothing.
Okay, but what you're telling me as a rational thinker that logically it makes sense that nothing can produce something.
No, I haven't said that at all. As a matter of fact, I've said we can't, and Tracy's pointed out twice now that we can't assess that because you don't have enough.
In other words, Matt, don't you think, though, I mean, I don't know why you'd resist this point so strongly, but don't you think at least that the strong preponderance of the evidence would support that something cannot come from nothing?
You've never examined nothing, so how can you make any assessment of it?
Hello? Okay, to say that you've never examined nothing,
right,
is I think simply logically ignoring the fact that for nothing to be able to do something is a logical absurdity.
Then you're being absurd when you.
But
you're talking about nothing as though it is something. So what I'm asking you're invoking it.
Nothing is non-existent. It's non-being.
What is that?
You can certainly imagine non-being. It's non-existent.
What is? Give me an example of something that is nothing that we have examined.
To go ahead and give an example of nothing, in order to give an example, I'd have to give you an example of something. which would sort of contradict.
Wait, so what are we talking about?
Now he's getting
What
there.
are we talking about when you say
Okay.
nothing and you start making...
I just want to know. You know what? Let's do this. Let's go ahead and assume that you're going to reject this point. Are you going to go ahead and you're going to go on record as saying that you believe something can come from nothing? That's all I
No,
wanna
he
know.
has not said
No,
that.
sir. And if you twist my words one more time to make me say something that I most definitely did not say and have corrected you on multiple times, not only will I hang up on your ass, but you can forget debating because you're demonstrating an incredible amount of dishonesty. Do you get that?
No, I don't think it's dishonest at all, Matt.
You can email and formally request a debate once you figure
Wow.
out why it is that saying, I don't accept X is not the assertion that I think X is true,
And
which you accused me
yeah.
of multiple times.
Yeah, you made it very clear. You said repeatedly, I think at least on 3 occasions during that call, you said that is not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many more times you have to say that is not what I'm saying before this person would understand.
And if we
that's
do
not
do
what
a
you're
debate,
saying.
I demand that there be a vote tally. Tool.